everybody, Molly Mandelberg here with Wild Hearts Rise Up. I just wanted to make a quick video of what I just did, which is the final piece of my electrical system in the van, which is the volt relay switch, which I think they call a 12 volt electronic battery isolator. So what it does basically is it connects, when the engine is running, it connects the alternator, the car battery, the actual vehicle's battery with the alternator running. It makes a circuit connection to the auxiliary batteries, which allows the house batteries basically to charge off the engine when the engine is running. And as soon as the engine is no longer running and the battery up front reaches its break off point, this switch system disconnects so that you can't drain either the front or the back battery. But what's also cool is if you happen to drain the car battery, you can press a little override button and you can actually jump start the vehicle from the house battery. So I'm gonna make another video real quick and show you the other side of this. So this is the one I went with. It's 150 amp 12 volt electronic battery isolator. That red light means that the connection is all good. Basically, I ran a cord, you can see that red cord right there, under my front step and under the passenger chair and under the floor up to where my battery lives. Sorry to already put the cover on. I just thought to make a video after I did that. But basically, I disconnected, step one, disconnected the negative terminal on the car battery. Then I connected that cord under the floor to the positive terminal, kept that negative off. And on this end, connected that positive, which comes through this little hole on the ground, to the main side of the isolator. And then I connected the aux side of the isolator to a 150 amp fuse. That's an ANL fuse if you're looking for those. And then that side goes to the positive terminal of my big house batteries. So once I did that, and I made sure that there's a little cord coming off the side of here, which is grounded. I have all the grounding cords. You can't really see them very well, but they're attached to the wall down there. I had to sand the paint off the chassis before I drilled through there to make sure that there's a solid grounding connection. And then I went back up to the front and reconnected the negative terminal, and that little light right there turned red. Then to test it, I turned on the engine. This second light right here turned blue, and that meant that the system was working and it was charging. And the only other thing I wanted to make sure was that it would stop charging when it was supposed to. So what I did then was I turned the engine off and I turned the lights and the stereo on so that the battery was being used up front, but not the alternator not charging the batteries in the back. And after about 2 minutes, that blue light went off, telling me that as soon as that battery was no longer helpful to this one, it was going to start hurting the front battery, that connection got cut off and no longer was charging the back batteries. And that means it's fucking working. So I'm really excited. I have had this little isolator in the van for like 6 months, even since I attached the solar 6 months ago and did the whole rest of the system and the inverter 4 months ago, and I still was just putting this off because it felt scary and hard. And I finally just did it, and I'm really excited because now, whether I plug in my electric blanket or whether I decide to make too many smoothies that day, even if it's cloudy out, I can just turn on the engine and be charging my batteries, and I'm really stoked about that. So I heard it was called a volt relay switch. What this one says it's called is electronic battery isolator, but that was like a $50 device. And even if you can't afford solar yet, I think that's the best thing to start with. I know I did it backwards because I was more interested in getting solar on the roof so I could finish the ceiling, because I knew I had to drill through the ceiling in order to put the ceiling up. Do it however you want to do it, but if you're working on a van build on a budget, I think that would be the smartest thing to do, because you're charging every time you're driving, and if you travel as much as I do, then that means you're charging a lot of the time. So I hope this was helpful. I'll also just show you a little bit more of my system so you get a feel for how I set things up. So I know there's a lot of cords in the way. I tried to do my best to not make it spaghetti, but this is my fuse box. So there's one circuit going straight from the batteries to the fuse box, and that's the 12 volt stuff. So the lights, the fan, the little fan that I have by my bed for when I was in the south and it was super hot and I wanted a fan on me at nighttime. The fuse box is wired to a, it doesn't need a fuse because it's wired to its own. Oh no, it is on a fuse. I forget this sometimes. So the fuse box itself is a 125 amp fuse before it goes back to the positive terminal on the battery. And then of course each little circuit inside of it has its own fuse. Like the fan is, I think, 5 volts or 5 amps. And here's the main thing that was really important to me was these giant switches, which is the solar and the battery, and I put one in for the giant inverter too. So basically, if I'm gonna be messing with my system at all, step one, I disconnect the solar so that there's no solar power running to the charge controller, which is this big gray box back here. And step two, I disconnect the battery so that the circuit is broken from the battery in its own circuit by itself. So the reason I do that, because number one, if you ever have solar running to your charge controller without a battery attached, that power has nowhere to go and it can blow up your charge controller. Step two, anytime you're working on your system, it's alive, it's electrical, it could blow you up. So if you're going to be messing with stuff and disconnecting things and like adding components or whatever, it's really nice to be able to just disconnect one switch and know that it's no longer live as a circuit, and you would actually have to like cross wires in order to short circuit anything. This is my little battery monitor thingy that tells me what's going on. It has lots of information. I'm not super good at understanding that yet, but then I've got my inverter down here, and this looks like a mess, but basically it's cords coming off the back of my inverter, and these three outlets, these three cords go to my outlets all over the place. So there's one right here by the sort of, this is a bench slash desk office space. There's one in the back by the bed, and then there's one right here by the sink in case I want to make a smoothie. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. This was process to design. I know it doesn't look clean, but I did my best to like secure things and label everything as I went. And this is my very favorite feature, these dimmer switches right here. Super awesome. Make the lights go on and off. All right, good luck on your build. I hope you guys have fun. It's not as hard as it looks. Just keep doing research until you figure it out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and come back next week for more magic from Wild Hearts Rise Up.